So I guess really, having a sister who has a mental disability has been something that's really created a huge difference in my life and the life of my family, and the way that we have come to become a real group of such a centred and cored group of people, and the family around her as well, has been fantastic to observe, and an enormous joy to my life. And I don't think I would have been able to do half of the things that I've done in the way that I do it without that experience. And the love that we show for each other is something that is really quite profound. So when I met my wife, I found that it was a really different sort of relationship that she had within her family, and a very different sense of what it was to be bound within a family, in all of the right ways. And so then observing my sister growing up, and the way that she has such a great relationship with both my wife and my children, she's got an incredible relationship, I found it really tricky to come to terms with the way that people won't go up to Helene, my sister, and go and talk to her, like they perhaps would to my parents, who she still lives with. What's really lovely is that they are still a really tight group, and they go out and they do lots of stuff together, which is great, but Mum and Dad are now not as young as they were, and there's going to be a time when they're not around. And so just me now questioning the way that Helene will be able to function in these sorts of ways is really interesting. I mean, we're going to be as supportive as we possibly can once Mum and Dad aren't there, but it's going to be a tricky time. But the finding that how she will work with other people. She has a fantastic support group at work. She works for the Endeavour Foundation, and they're great. All of her colleagues are really great. I mean, like any workplace, there are ups and downs and all of that sort of stuff. But the people who look after them and are the managers of Endeavour Foundation are quite outstanding. And the relationships that they have with people like Helene and all of her colleagues are the sorts of relationships that I think we'd all wish that other people would want to have with a person that they realise has mental disability or some sort of mental illness. There is a lot of confusion, I think, in Mr. and Mrs. General Public's mind about how to deal with it, so that the person that they're speaking with doesn't feel embarrassed, and they don't feel embarrassed, or they possibly, what I've observed is they sort of don't know where to come in, where to sort of pitch the level of the conversation, rather than just doing it as they would, starting a conversation as they would with anybody and seeing where it flowed. And because that's one of the great joys is having a person in your family who you'll start a conversation with, and sometimes you just don't know where it's going to end up. And I think that that's a huge joy, and it's quite brilliant. And my two boys, who are now 8 and 9, they play with Helene in such fantastic ways, with conversation and with words, and this sort of stream of consciousness conversation that occurs, which is different to a what am I saying, normal, how you would expect a conversation to go, is absolutely fascinating and enlightening and enlivening. And one of the profound truths that I found with having a sister like this is that, from her point of view, there is no judgment of who a person is, where they are from. She will love everybody, and love, I mean truthfully and purely, love anybody she comes in contact with exactly the same way, until something that other person does may affect the way that she feels about that relationship. And that has happened in the past, but there's something about her that just won't allow herself to totally let go of that person once they even have done something that hasn't been very good. There'll be a real connection, and you realise it's tough for her to let go.